refer members to my register of interests, and I thank my comrade Katy for securing this important debate today. As a former rep for the University and Colleges Union, the UCU, I know all too well the struggles that staff in higher education are facing. For years, these workers have been undervalued, as both the UK and Scottish governments have allowed low pay, casualisation and poor working conditions to become rife across the sector. So I stand with these workers as they take industrial action and join them in their calls for a real pay rise after years of below-inflation wages, for an end to precarious contracts which lead to poor working conditions and dangerously high workloads, and pensions which allow them to have dignity in retirement, not pensions that have been cut to the bone. Presiding Officer, as I've already mentioned, prior to election, I was a UCU rep, and a particular issue which members faced then and now is the increasing casualisation of work in higher education. So I'd like to share some testimony from a UCU member at the University of Dundee which highlights the human impact of casualisation. In their words, "I've been teaching at universities in the UK for 5 years, teaching English and academic skills to students who want to come and study in the UK. In that time, I've been on more than 10 temporary contracts, all of them either part-time or fractional. Most of my students will pay more for their master's course than I will make in a year. It's just not possible to plan a life under these conditions. It's nearly impossible to get a mortgage because temporary contracts are seen as too risky by the bank. You can't afford to pay for further training and qualifications because your pay is so low. Starting a family seems impossible when you don't know if you'll have a contract this semester or if you might need to move to another city for work. When I got my first job at university, I was excited because I thought I'd made it. Now, I wouldn't recommend the higher education sector to anyone who wants to start a family or build a stable life of any kind. I plan to retrain and leave the sector at the next opportunity, and I know I'm not alone." Presiding Officer, the UCU member whose testimony I just shared is not alone. The issues which they face reflect the systemic challenges facing university staff. As we've already heard today, at the University of Dundee, senior management are pushing through pension cuts without meaningful negotiations with the affected workers or their trade union representatives in Unite, in Unison and in UCU. The Scottish Government has refused to engage, despite often emphasising the importance of fair work. The First Minister, the Education Ministers, even their officials, all failed to meet with a delegation of workers and their Unite representatives in Parliament just 2 weeks ago. Presiding Officer, where is the... I'll take an intervention from
Minister.
the Minister.
I can only respectfully suggest such an invitation never made its way to me. I have met with the unions from Dundee. I've met with folk from Dundee on the ground. I've spoken with them. So I'm sorry to say that is news to me. And if that delegation wants to write to me, I'll be happy to consider meeting with them.
Mercedes Vialba, I can give you the time back.
I thank the Minister for his intervention and for his commitment to meeting with the workers. I'll pass that on. The invitation was extended to every single MSP in Parliament, and I raised it at FMQs, and I even said at the time and place. So I can only apologise if the Minister wasn't paying attention that day. Presiding Officer, where is the fairness in low pay, in casualised contracts and pension cuts that university staff in Dundee and across Scotland now face? And how can it be right that universities which receive so much public funding are able to defy the Scottish Government's fair work principles without being held to account? The growing marketisation of higher education has seen universities prioritise profit over people. We have to think bolder and transform our education system in the way we transformed public health with the creation of the NHS. This means aspiring for a national education service universally available from cradle to grave, providing well-paid, secure and unionised jobs for its staff and making lifelong learning a reality for all.